Week 1 of the SPL has concluded, and we played the bare minimum of 9 matches. 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. This is voice-guided Smite. So at the recording of my first week 1 video, all the matchups were changed after the video already went up. But if we looked at the predictive models that I'm trying to work with, we would have seen the exact 3 outcomes that we saw. I might not have given it straight 3-0s across the board, but I would have been right in the same line with the eventual outcomes of who won the match. So what were the matches? First matchup was SK versus the Pittsburgh Knights. As the predictive model would have told you, Pittsburgh Knights clearly dominated and began to show us that they might be who we think they are. Second matchup was Dignitas versus Space Station Gaming, who also completed a 3-0 sweep. The third match of the week took place on Friday was Space Station Gaming versus Pittsburgh Knights, and again, the Knights looked devastating. So what were the week 1 takes? The Pittsburgh Knights might just be that good. 2 3-0s against 2 good teams that we expected to be mid to top pack. Also, final takeaway of the week is that variety is awesome. You might clearly be the best player this year. We shall see. Either way, Arthur is currently broken in his hands. The Knights beating SK saw their team points drop from 23 to 21. SK went from 164 to 166. Dig went from 110 to 99. Space Station Gaming takes up that increase from 110 to 121. And then the final matchup saw the Knights drop further from 21 to 19 team points. Space Station all the way up to 123. Week 2 will kick us off with E United versus SK. United comes in with a team rating of 140 and SK with a rating of 166. This puts EU with a slight point advantage. They are within the range to have an upset. I feel like there's enough variability in these points that I have to point out that I think SK could upset EU, but we'll find out. I do have slight advantage going to EU. The matchup for me to watch, I think, will be Benji versus Bel Air Scary D. I think that this is the most interesting matchup that we have. I feel that whoever wins this lane will take pressure off the need for the jungler to come, and this is the key that I think for them to one of them is gonna. This is how either of these teams are going to win. It's all going to be through their. I give it to Benji. I think he's a better player. I think that's where the slight advantage also goes to EU. Same thing, if Bel Air, Scary D can take over this lane, I think that gives SK the advantage, and that's possibly how the games will go. Whoever wins the lane, that's where I think the win comes. I still think SK has some talent and Paul in the mid lane, but that's the strong matchup in the solo lane. That's pretty big. That being said, if Paul can do Paul things in the mid lane, we could be seeing a very different game. Finishing off the Thursday night matchups, we have Rival versus Dignitas. Rival comes in having not played matches yet in this SPL with a rating of 118 versus Dignitas' updated 99. Now, Dignitas looked very dominant in week 1. But Rival should be a better team than they have faced. This matchup's still within my upset range. It's possible that Rival still beats Dig. According to the math, I don't know how that happens with how dominant they looked against Space Station Gaming, but we will find out. The matchup to watch is going to be Qville Fred versus Twig in the jungle. I say that knowing that's probably the best matchup, but all eyes after week 1 are on Variety. We don't know what we expect to see, but let's not see Arthur for the love of God. Keys for Rivals win, I think, is going to be through Arkle and Polar Bear Mike in the duo lane. I think if they can win their lane, it'll take a lot of pressure off Rival and their jungle. They need to win their lane so that PBM can get out of duo, maybe help out in mid, because Twig's going to have his hand full with QO and Variety. Dignitas to win, do more what you did in week 1. Win that solo lane, let Variety go crazy. He's unclassed at the moment after week 1. Friday will kick off with another Rival matchup. Rival versus the Knights. Rival should be, at this point, coming in lower. I should say lower in ranking, because now they have lost to Dig, right? So Rival comes in now instead of being at 118, drops all the way down to 128. The Knights, coming in off their wins, are at 19, putting a huge discrepancy here. But it is now their first, probably the best team they're facing in these first 3 matchups, if we're being honest. But we'll see. This is Rival's a new team. Depends on how they look against Dig. Anything's possible. Without Alpha Jackal coaching them, it's going to be a little hard with just how dominant these Dig and Knights looked in that week 1. Even though I want to believe that Rival can do some big things here, I can't foresee the Knights going forward at this point losing any games. Matchup to watch for me is Pandacat versus Zeros. I say that because I think that's the huge what if. Now, we'll see how he faces up in the Dig game, but it's not against the Zeros. Everyone, I think we can agree, Zeros is the best mid laner. Who can win this? It's not about who wins this. Zeros is going to win the mid. It's more about, can Pandacat keep up and contribute to his team, or will he somehow fall back and become a big handicap for them? For Rival to win, don't let Adapting and Zeros win the mid lane. Panda's going to need help. You can handle your solo matchup, but if we're honest, it's just going to be really difficult for them on that right side. Their duo lane's probably their best matchup. I think Arkle and PBM are pretty good for Rival, but there's just mismatches with Zeros, Adapting, and Deathwalker for the Knights. For the Knights, if Deathwalker takes over that solo lane and does Deathwalker things, Adapting's now going to roam that jungle. He will likely beat Twig in the jungle, and he will likely help Zeros beat Pandacat. When that happens, I'm sorry, but there's no way you're going to be having an Adapting free roaming, doing what Adapting can do in his jungle and win. Friday, we'll see Trifecta take on SK. Trifecta coming in with a 292, second lowest of our barrel, only surpassed by Luminosity. SK coming off of a loss against AU, predictably, should come in around 180. This puts, SK still in the lead for the points. Little bit of a potential here as well for Trifecta to possibly beat SK, but I think SK comes out pretty well ahead in my predictive math models. Shouldn't be too hard for them to win, but I think we'll get some pretty good games here. The matchup to watch is in the jungle. If Trifecta loses the jungle, Trifecta loses this game. Why? If SK wins the mid lane every games, it's going to be really hard for solo and duo to win. If the jungle matchup goes in Trifecta's favor, they will be able to support their other lanes that way. If not, it's just too much. For Trifecta to win, that means Weekend actually has to have a good game. He can't put up a 6-6-7 type game. He has to be able to control his form and get in and help his solo and duo lanes win. If that happens, there's a different game that's going to come for them. For SK, again, for the most part, most of their stuff's going to throw through their mid. If Paul does Paul things, that's where their biggest potential here for the game is. That's why it's big importance for Trifecta to win that jungle, because they're going to have some problems. So I hope you enjoyed this version of Voice Guided Smite. Just a quick wrap up. I have EU beating SK. I have Dig beating Rival. The Knights beat Rival as well, becoming the second team to get double losses. And then SK shall be victorious against Trifecta. I think we see some great games from Variety. I think we finally see Paul do some good stuff for SK, and it's nice to start seeing a lot more of the NA teams show up. It's going to be good to see where EU actually sits in this match. It'll be nice to see Trifecta, and we might just see exactly how good Dig and the Knights actually are. See you next week for Voice Guided Smite.